Welcome back, you guys. This is the Art School Graduate Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Robinson. And today I'm excited to sit down with let me start that over. Welcome back, you guys. This is the Art School Graduate Podcast. My name is Justin Robinson. I'm your host today, and I'm excited to sit down with an artist, photographer, and the host of In BTWN ARTIST podcast. My guest today is Stephanie Brown. Stephanie, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being with us today. So let's talk about the roots in your creative calling. You grew up in South Florida at this full intersection of Jamaican and Black American identities. So how did that duality shape your early worldview and eventually your voice as an artist?
It shaped everything. Like it's almost like life through a pinhole camera.
Yeah.
Growing up in a Jamaican household, I actually didn't know that I was American. It was brought to my attention. So that's how deeply entrenched I was in it. My parents were of the age where they were facilitating bringing a lot of their brothers and sisters and, close relatives, and ushering them into the US. So I saw so many of my cousins, everyone coming from Jamaica. I knew that I was born here, but I didn't really understand nationalism in that way, So I vividly remember it was in elementary school where someone was like, "What are you?" And I said, "Jamaican." And he was just like, "Oh, but you weren't born there." And I was like, "No." And he was like, "So you're African American?" And I said, "Say what?" I was honestly so confused. And then on top of that, like, I always grew up with my mom saying, with this definitely a stereotype being an immigrant, right? But this perspective of she's just like, "Don't be like those Black Americans." I'm just like, "Oh, okay." I don't know what that means, but like immediately that was me knowing that like, oh, I'm not this, I'm this. So as I got older, that I just continued to like be challenged with that complexity. And it's something that I always bring to the table. Like I can't not bring to the table that I'm Jamaican. And it later became, when I became an adult, I was very hungry to get my citizenship and get my passport because I felt like it was a missing piece. Like I have no control that I was born here, but I do always say that like the most American thing about me is my passport.
Culturally for you guys, you are a proud culture. My wife's best friend is Jamaican, and we love it when she's like, "Oh, we're having a party at our house." We're like, "Bet, we're coming," because we know all the aunties are going to be there. Somebody's cooking, somebody's in the backyard barbecuing something, somebody's making rum punch. It's just like it's a vibe, it's an energy, it's just fun, bright, and it's like almost a breath of fresh air sometimes. Like for me going into that space, I love it because it's like culturally, it's just like you can see how tightly woven everything is for you guys. If it's through family, through food, through conversation, through cards, through dominoes, it's just like you can see how you guys just mesh well to each other. And it's just a breath of fresh air to be in a space with your people. Like it really is.
No, I feel that. And, that pride can get us in trouble sometimes too. And because my art practice is literally rooted in identity construction, I have had both the challenge and the honor and the privilege to really unpack that and see what that means, not just for me, but also just as a culture, right? Because that pride and that arrogance can also get in your way. It can also breed some toxic work behaviors and expectations. And it's been a lot to unpack and I think reintroduce myself to my own culture, but in a more healthy way.
Yeah. So as a first generation American, what drew you to the art of, personal and ancestral exploration within your work?
So the personal and ancestral part we got to a little bit later. I think I entered the space just by being surrounded by creativity. I'm the last of 5. All of my siblings are artists in their own right.
Wow.
Like I'll just run down the gamut and like from oldest to youngest. And there's a huge age gap too, because my oldest sister is 52 or she'll be turning 52. And I'm 33 this year. So huge age gaps all around. But I mean, from interior design to media, graphic design, videography. My other brother is a woodworker, amazing engineer, like whatever you imagine, like he can come up with a way to build it. My sister, who's closest to me in age, number 4, she's a professional DJ in the Tampa
Oh
Bay area.
wow.
Shout out to DJ Lady Shay, who's killing it. And you've got me, who decided to go to art school. And both of my parents were also creative. So I learned how to sew from my mom. My mom baked, decorated cakes. Like that was all side money for her. Rum cakes, escovitch fish, doing events. Like that was what we were doing on the weekends growing up. But it was abnormal to go to art school. When I decided that I wanted to do that, my mom was just like, no. And my dad just laughed it off, saying like, oh, that's a cute idea. We can't afford that. And I was just like, wait, what? Nobody like actually supported the idea of me going to art school. They thought it would be like a cute idea, but they didn't understand that being feasible. And I realized that we didn't have examples of people actually creating a sustainable life as an artist. Those were hobbies. They were, I was supported as a creative growing up in my
Yeah.
household. But when it came to like, oh, what are you going to do in the world? What's going to be your job? It's like, yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to be an artist. Just like, say what? Yeah,
You're not the only one who people said that to. Like
I'm
we were
sure.
speaking, but I was speaking with you beforehand. Like I played football and I did art, and our coach was like, "Do you're just going to get an easy degree? Like I don't want you to get up out of here with the easy degree." I'm like, I'm not trying to do an easy degree. Like I'm actually
Right.
good at this. Like,
Right.
so trust me, it's hard when you don't have the examples and you're in these um, spaces of like it's non-traditional. Let's say
Yeah.
that it's very
Yeah,
much
exactly that.
non-traditional.
Because it's a thing. It's
Yes.
just, yeah, that's just that. It's non-traditional. It's not something that we see a lot of. And I think because of that, I think I approached my art in the very beginning outwardly. Like it was definitely things that I was interested in by all
Yeah.
means. But it really wasn't until my MFA that I really learned how to embody the personal. And
Yeah.
embodying the personal is where the ancestral came out, from just moving forward in my other interests. But it was a mentor of mine, India Beale, and she actually visited me at University of Michigan, and we're talking about my work, and she's just like, okay, so what does this have to do with you though? And I'm like, um I mean, it did, but I
Yeah.
was omitting that part, you
Hmm.
know? So because I was naturally researching and doing things that was of interest to me, I was also naturally omitting myself. And that was something that I got to learn in graduate school, really how to apply myself and like apply the personal. And the more specific I got around my own lived experiences, the stronger the work actually
Yeah.
became.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
more accessible it became for other people because I was getting into the nitty gritty of my experiences
Yeah.
and inserting that into my work. And that was a game changer for me in just the development of my studio art practice.
I'm telling you, if you're a fine artist, I think an MFA, a good MFA, is the way to go to help develop your practice and to get you to critically think
Yeah.
about your work instead of haphazardly putting work out there. There's a meaning behind it. There's a thought behind it. There's kind of a layer behind it, and it also opens you up creatively. Like I totally agree. I had a mentor that was like that in my MFA. Just questioned everything. Well, why would
Yeah.
you do that? And it's like, I like it. And it's like that's okay. But like if you want to have longevity in it, it's the conversation within the pieces that allows your artwork to just stand the test of times. That's what some of these great artworks that are still around do.
Yeah.
There's deeper meaning to them. So hey, if you're an art student thinking about it, just give it a shot. An MFA really helps you critically think of your work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's why I explored an MFA because I was seeing how other artists I admired talked about their work, and I was like, "Ooh, that's what I'm missing."
Mhm.
So for me, that was a driver. For other people, it might just be a terminal degree because they want to teach, you know. But for others, and for me in particular, I was looking to catapult my art career and really get that critique, like really learning how to. I didn't have a studio practice before my
Mhm.
MFA. I had a really strong portfolio. I was a very strong artist, but the strength and I think sustainability of like, what does my career look like? Like, who am I? What am I saying to the world? That I really honed in an MFA program.
Yeah. See, for me, it was totally the opposite. I was just bored with art. I was like, this
Mm.
can't be it. This can't be it. Like, I didn't go to school to do this, and this is it. Like, I got bored with it. So I went and sought out a challenge in
Okay.
getting my MFA, because it's like I always knew like certain things. I just didn't have the language of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to push it out. I didn't understand art practice. I didn't understand um, the art of play within your work. Like I didn't have that kind of critical thinking of it. And now I'm just like, oh, I'm good till I'm gone. I'm good. Like the art practice worked.
I love that.
Um, so let's talk about the entry point into photography and installation part.
Sure.
What was that for you? Was it something you saw in your like going out and doing your own work, or was it something that you researched? Like, what brought you to that entry point of photography and installation art?
So the end of my time of my bachelor's program, so I went to SCAD, Savannah, and I got my BFA in photography. And towards the end of my senior year, I started experimenting with the way that I was showcasing my photography. I really wasn't satisfied with just prints on a wall anymore for certain projects. I was just finding that like sometimes it worked and sometimes I felt like that wasn't it. Like there was a better way to showcase it. So my one of my senior year projects was the first time I challenged that. And then I graduated, and it was really in that in between time. So I took about a year and a half off before I went to graduate school. And it was in that in between time where I really started challenging the way that I wanted to portray my work. So still seeing myself as a photographer, still definitely being photo based, but really challenging the way that I was showcasing my work. And is this the best way to say what I need to say? Is there a better way for me to do that? So that's really where that transition point happened for me, was really looking at like photo based installations. And then when I decided that I wanted to go to graduate school, I intentionally looked for interdisciplinary programs because, I was like, all right, I already have like my main medium, if you will. And I really wanted to be in a space that could help foster and cultivate what does the intersection of different mediums look like per se. And I wanted that freedom to explore in that way and not necessarily be bound to one particular medium.
Yes. So many people I know use the term interdisciplinary artist, but what does that look like for you? Because for every person I've spoken with that has used it, it's very kind of personal depending on their path in art or design or creativity. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question because sometimes people also interchangeably use it with
Mhm.
multidisciplinary, and I don't think it's the same thing.
It's not.
So for me, he's like, yeah, no, it's
It's not.
not. For me, interdisciplinary is super key because of the inter part. Literally, that first part, I meet at the intersection of different mediums to bring different themes and conversations across.
Mhm.
Everything that I create is a conversation. It's educational. I'm looking to push particular narratives and perspectives to my viewer for them to really contemplate, and I'm intentional about how these different mediums work together, maybe
Mhm.
contradict each other, and just literally where they intersect. So for me, that's where interdisciplinary artists really fit for me because it's meeting me exactly where I am. When I'm starting a new project, I don't think about the medium.
Mhm.
What's driving me is the context of the work and the themes and the work,
Mhm.
maybe the symbols and the work. What are those things? And I let that drive the end result.
Mhm.
Through kind of the beginning of my interdisciplinary artist journey, I was making dolls. I've made soap. I've made t-shirts.
Mhm.
I've made furniture, like
Wow.
all different types of things. Like I've never that freedom has actually been really exciting.
Mhm.
And it's really opened me up to not be so bound to a medium per se, but really married to the theme and the messages in the work. Because at the end of the day, I'm a conceptual artist, and the way that I move is as an interdisciplinary artist.
So I'm curious, how do you know which medium to use when you want to express a particular idea? Like, because you just said you work across multiple disciplinaries, forgive me,
Yeah.
photography, doll making, writing, installation art. So how do you know the right medium for the right idea?
It's totally a gut feeling.
Mm,
It's totally a gut feeling. I will say that if I'm narrowing down my options,
mhm,
it's all research led, and it's rooted in the context of whatever it is that I'm looking up. When I did the doll work in particular, I was looking at colorism, and I was looking at symbols of the antebellum South. And I was also thinking about identity and wanting to reference so much of our identity starts in our adolescence. Then I identify as a woman, so thinking about my own girlhood. All right, cool. What are some symbols of girlhood? What are some
mhm,
symbols? Okay, dolls, great. What are some symbols of the antebellum South? Topsy turvy dolls. Oh, here's this
yeah,
new piece of history that probably a lot of people don't know about. How can I take this old thing and bring it to the contemporary? Right. So that's like a snippet of like the
mhm,
buildup of how I'm thinking about who's this work for? What is it about? What are some of the symbols within it? And what can I pull from that to determine the medium itself in which I'm going to manifest the final work in?
mm. So with those different mediums, how do you use them to create like a deeper narrative, like that impact that you were speaking about, like when you want to create and where you're coming from and how it's research based? So how do these different mediums help create that deeper impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the different mediums provide varied access points for
Mm,
people to connect with the work. Someone might connect with it through the writing. Oftentimes, I employ poetry for my artist statements or even embedded within the work itself. So, someone who's a writer who appreciates creative writing, maybe that's an access point for them. Um, Over the years, I've also really adopted satire, and which is interesting. I never thought
yeah.
that was an avenue that I would go in, but the art of subversion is very attractive to me, and I have found that to be a really useful tool again in pulling people in and bringing people in. So for me, that's what I'm thinking about when I'm utilizing these different mediums. Everything compounds on top of each other. So they all work harmoniously, but I'm providing various access points for people to come into the work. But everyone arrives, I don't want to say in the same point, but in a similar space and area to kind of
Yep.
like the heart of the work, the why, the what is this about?
Yep.
And it's also a way that I have found that people can insert themselves. And
Mhm.
that to me is something that I strive for in all the works that I make. I'm looking for opportunities for people to insert themselves because I feel like they actually have a sense of like co-ownership,
Yeah.
and that gives them more buy-in. It also makes them more interested. It just kind of keeps them around longer. Everyone's got short attention spans with the art of scrolling and social media.
Yes.
A lot of the things I make are beautiful, but they're more than just beautiful. So I'm always very intentional about how to pull people in to get past, like, oh, that looks cool, and to really get some knowledge.
So you mentioned the topics you touch on are very heavy, from systemic racism, colorism, identity. So what is your approach to translating those heavy themes into something that's visual and some parts even tactile? So how do you do that?
Yeah. So I would say there's probably three main things that I employ. So one is the art of play,
Okay.
the art of subversion, which I just mentioned a little bit about. And then the last one I would also say is learning experience design, which is a form of instructional design, but learning experience design really hones in creating profound experiences that leave an impact. And most people are used to experiencing that through academia. But the same things we'll actually see in like gamification. It's really just kind of around the theory of how we learn and how we experience the world. So I employ all of those different things, not as a mask, but I would say as a guide or a facilitator to help bring people through these heavier topics that I'm sharing. It's a way that I have found that I can still be bold because I don't want to sugarcoat. That is not my vibe at all. But it allows me to be bold in more of a satirical way,
Yeah.
and then utilizing that subversion by creating either spaces, images, or environments, if it's an installation, that really draw people in. One of my best examples of that is a project that I did called Seesaw. And it was what at the time it was my largest installation to date at 900 square feet. And I recreated a playground. So coming into the gallery space, seeing it from a distance, you're seeing these giant seesaws, you're seeing turf, artificial grass, intimate lighting,
Wow.
these shiny gold bars. So immediately, like you're coming into the space thinking play, excitement. Now, how do you feel when you're on a playground? What comes to
That
mind?
that a lot of people I feel will sit there and be like, "Oh, I should bring my kid here. I should probably be doing this and that."
Right. But
Yeah.
also when we're on a playground, we feel open, right? It's one of those spaces where you feel free, almost like no judgment. Like there's all these positive feelings that come with the playground and the idea of play. And I wanted people to have those feelings coming into the space because what they were really about to encounter when they get closer is a conversation around justice in America and how much does my identity weigh? And seeing that, oh, I can pick up a bar and some of the bars have race, gender, sex, education, housing status, all of these different terms, and each bar had a different weight to it. So as people were interacting with it, that could anger some people. It could excite some people. Like I had to be prepared for the gamut of emotions that people would feel. But the idea is that all of those things that I employed brought you in. And if I had a huge banner that said, hey, this is about blah, 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 nobody would ever approach, you
Right.
know? So those are some of the tools that I utilize to pull people in because it's like now that they're there, they arrived there with their guard down. And that's exactly what I want because when our guard is down, we can actually be more receptive to
Open.
what we're
Yep.
hearing, seeing. It's really an opportunity to learn, maybe have some empathy. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for my work to move the needle in helping people critically think about what they think they know, and hopefully teach them something new. Or if anything at all, just encourage them to ask more specific questions or new questions to go and research on their own.
So I'm curious to know, like with you're dealing with these heavy topics like colorism, identity through your work. So how do you help like Black and Brown communities navigate those things through your
Yeah.
work? Because I know for some that may not be a part of those communities, they can just appreciate it and they
Hmm.
just look at it and just take it as art, right? But it's the deeper meaning that I think what you're trying to do is get the Black and Brown community to understand and see like, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. This is what society says, but you can change it. So how do you navigate that within those two communities?
Yeah. Exactly what you said. I'm wanting to challenge their way of thinking. And I'm wanting them to turn, not even turn, like look at themselves in the mirror, you know? Um, and it goes back to, again, the personal. So, me embedding my own personal experiences into the work that I'm making, getting specific about my own identity work. Like, I can't be exploring this topic and not being exploring it for myself, you know?
Right.
I can't try to get other people to learn this thing if I haven't learned it for myself. So, the more that I learn, the more that I really create and really in a space of wanting to share and help other people unlock their identities. Because in the US, you know, we're considered a minority for the time being. um, but on a global scale, we're a majority.
Mhm.
And that realization was like a huge mind-blowing experience for me and my identity journey. Not everyone has the privilege to travel as much as I have. Not everyone has the opportunity to, engage in higher education, all these spaces and things that can educate you on that
Mhm.
aspect. So for me, I feel like my work becomes a conduit, it becomes a medium to help really just kind of poke the bear in these boxes and these expectations around, oh no, Black people don't do that. Oh no, Black people don't do this, or oh, this is for those people, this is for that. It's like, says who, you
Right.
know? And what happens when you negate those things? What happens when you question those things? I'm really, that's my audience. Like, my audience is people of African descent. I think I create and design work that is accessible by all groups of people. But again, the strength of the work is where my focus is. And my focus is for people of African descent to really take the magnifying glass to who they are and their own identity. And I really just want Black and brown people to like have agency. I want them to discover the agency that they have, because when it comes to our identity, unfortunately, because of the society we live in, I do believe that we can't be like Winnie the Pooh and, this
Yep.
ignorant to all the things. However, we also don't have to let those things weigh us down,
Mhm.
stop us. What are the things that we've accomplished despite all of the BS, all of the
Yeah.
noise, all of the stereotypes? So instead, I'm really looking for my work to, yes, it's these hard topics, but we need to understand these hard topics so that you can be empowered. We need
Mhm.
to understand these hard topics so that you can critique. We need to understand these hard moments so that we can move forward and challenge and reconstruct who we are on our
Mhm.
terms, opposed to some Eurocentric box that was put on top of us.
I love the way you broke that down. That was it. And I'm glad you said a very key point that I tell a lot of people. And what I've noticed with a lot of creatives, travel. Travel is huge to,
Everything.
so let me ask you that. How does travel fit into your art practice? What does it do? What does it bring? What does it influence? I'm just curious what it does for you.
Yeah, no one's ever asked me that before.
I,
Um,
listen, I am part of travel because I love it. It
yeah,
sparks so much question and thought. I have so many things I just take pictures of and I look at when I get back home, like, dang,
yeah.
okay, let me continue this. Like that thought continues for me. So what does it do for you and your practice?
To me, it's like a never-ending game of memory. Everywhere I go, I'm essentially like absorbing new data, new visual, new experiences. And then when I come back home, or even if I don't come back home, every additional place that I go to, I'm like making comparisons and matching and connecting the dots. It drives my research topics. It drives the areas of research that I'm interested in. It drives the type of work that I want to make. Um, when I travel, I'm always looking for us.
Mhm.
And that's now. When I first started traveling, I didn't know that I was looking for myself. I didn't know that I was looking for people of African descent. My I definitely believe that I grew up with the natural inclination to travel because my
Mhm.
dad traveled a lot. And then he was a truck driver by trade. So just literally always on the road. But for me, my only experiences with travel was going back to Jamaica. Like, that was it. Um, that was that was it. Otherwise, like, I grew up going to predominantly white institutions and schools, being the handful of Black children in the room. But I knew that travel was always important to me. So when I left SCAD, I intentionally took a job on a cruise ship as a photographer
Wow.
just to travel. It was not
Wow.
for Norwegian Cruise Line, not because I had a dream of photographing tourists. It was practical. It was like,
Mhm.
hey, I can use my degree. I can and I can be put in a space where I'm photographing daily,
Mhm.
but realistically, coming out of undergrad, who's paying for me to go to Italy, to
Right.
Spain? Like, all these countries that I got to experience by working on the cruise ship, that
It's
is not
amazing.
something that my parents were prepared,
Right.
to fund, nor was there any type of amount of money that I was going to make coming out of college to afford that. So to me, that job on the cruise ship was like an even exchange. He's like, I'm
Right.
going to do this labor, but I get to be in these ports every single day, photographing, experiencing, watching. And just naturally, I started photographing Black people. Like, I'm not even a street photographer, but when I travel, I become one
Yeah.
because I'm so fascinated. And I think the most fascinating thing for me, so that was my first time in Europe, working on the cruise ship. And the biggest deal for me is that it not only called to question, but it put in the trash all the perspectives I saw of Black people outside of America.
Right.
It literally put them in the trash because now I could see with my own two eyes, these people thriving,
Yep.
working, being respected, having families, even the guests who were cruising on the ship, like looking at these beautiful Black families where English is not their first language. I'm just like, my mind is blown. And of course, they're telling me about their communities and from the Netherlands to Germany to, I'm just like, what? Okay.
Yep.
That to me, like nothing was the same again after that.
Oh, I believe it. I had the same epiphany. I always do whenever we go somewhere, whenever me and my wife travel, I'm looking, I'll be like, and it's kind of like that. They see you, that universal nod where it's like, they give you the
Yeah.
little nod and it's like, or the what's up. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of get it. I do get it, but I am more intrigued by how we get treated,
Yeah.
which is crazy different
Yeah.
than most
And there's
people would.
commonalities across the globe, which is
Yes.
actually my time on the cruise ship is what inspired me to get my MFA.
Mm,
I was not really sold on going to graduate school.
uh-huh.
I was kind of interested, but I was like, I don't know what I'm going to research. I don't know what I want to do. Like what in the world would I do a thesis on? I don't know. But my time on the ship, as beautiful and eye opening as that experience was, I was also made privy to the ways in which people with darker skin, period, are just marginalized across the globe. Every
Wow.
country, every community, it's like now I have the language to understand that it looks different, where we might experience systemic racism in one way, other countries are experiencing really toxic and embedded microaggressions. It looks different, it feels different, it tastes different,
Yeah.
but there's some type of marginalization happening. And a lot of that has to do with America and the transatlantic slave trade and just the ways in which, on a foundational level, people of African descent were portrayed and showboated across the globe as this item, as this thing. And some communities and some countries have, worked on that in different ways, but it definitely is a foundational underpinning
Mhm.
that a lot of people just on a base level have this understanding of who and what Black people are.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's deep.
Oh, it is. I love it. We could probably talk about that for hours because it is something that, like, even when I go on these trips, I call my mom and she'd be like, she's here in America, but she'd be like, "Are you okay? Are you safe? Like, how are things?" And I'm like, "I'm good." Like, yeah, better than you think. So I was just curious about how travel plays into your art practice, which
Yeah.
is, it seems like it has like it greatly influenced you to even pursue your MFA, which is
It
phenomenal.
did. Oh, and I'll just say one other thing.
Mhm.
For my MFA, travel influenced where I went and where I applied. So at the
Oh,
time, University of Michigan funded an international research trip between
uh-huh.
year 1 and year 2, and that's actually what attracted me to that program, because I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
"Oh, they understand the importance of travel so much so that it is embedded into the curriculum. Yes,
Wow.
please."
Yeah, 100%. So I want to come back to one little thing I was curious about. Has there been any viewer reaction that has like stuck with you? or something that surprised you when they go see your work? Because you broke down, and it was just a thought that just came to me. I know it kind of seems
Yeah.
like we're jumping back and forth, but it just came to me because it's just like the playground that you made. And I was just thinking, like, has there ever been a reaction or something that has stuck with you that you kind of were like, step back and just observing how people interacted with it? Was there something interesting you've ever caught, or just kind of was like, huh, I wouldn't have thought of it that way, or looked at it that way, or hearing these conversations out loud? Has anything ever happened like that for you?
Kind of. I do like to observe, especially my installations. I oftentimes am not like, hey, I'm the artist. Like, I just like to be a fly on the wall for a bit, and just let people engage and watch them engage. Um, I think, I don't know that something has surprised me or shocked me, but I will say that watching the way that people interact with my work is added data, if you will, that I employ either into the next iteration of that same work or a future project, just something that I'm keeping in mind. And sometimes it's just affirming of like,
Uh-huh.
all right, Stephanie, good job. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you did it. Like I did this work one time, again, another satire kind of piece where I created my own sun tanning lotion. And
Okay.
when you read the bottle, it's totally condemning it. But from afar, it looks like a very beautifully marketed, like, ooh, look at
Mhm.
that product. What's that? So I do have a very specific memory of showing this work at a convention in Los Angeles, and a woman coming up to me who I believe might have been Hispanic. And she comes up to and she's like, ooh, tanning lotion. I need this, right? So I can look like your beautiful skin. And I'm just like, and she starts reading the label.
Face
And when I tell
change.
you, like, oh, she got so pale. Like, she was embarrassed. And she was just like, oh, it's a joke. And I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and smiled at her. And she walked away.
I love that art. I love that kind of art where it sucks them in and then they realize, like, damn.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh,
you're a part of the
yes,
problem.
yes.
And I just this work was for you because you're a part
Oh,
of
I
the
love
problem.
it. I
So there
love
have
it.
been moments like that, and I think there's also been really beautiful moments where, I really pride myself in creating spaces
Mhm.
that make people feel safe. I've done work around miscarriage and infant fatality, and people feeling safe to just tell me their stories unsolicited, just coming up and sharing things, or like, man, I haven't thought about this in X amount of years, or I haven't told anyone this in X amount of years. And I just did an installation around like Black women health experiences.
Mhm.
And again, a space where all of a sudden different memories are coming up and people want to talk about different things.
Mm.
So I'm humbled by those experiences, and I take them really seriously. And for me, they're
Mhm.
really affirming as to just the impact of my work. And even if the world doesn't get to see or experience these things, those moments are really affirming for me that like
Mhm.
I'm on my way.
So how do you know a piece is finished? Well, yeah, we'll touch on finish, but how do you know a piece is successful?
I like that. I think I know a piece is successful when I see it interacted in the way that I envisioned,
Mhm.
and also when I get feedback from, if not a viewer, for some works, I do kind of create, again, like that, like academic basis.
Mhm.
Sometimes I make little cohorts of my friends, and I'm just like, hey, can I shop this project idea to you? Or this is what I'm thinking. Like before the public even sees it, I'll do that kind of thing. And for me, that is also a level of success. Just kind of getting that peer support and feedback and that back and forth iteration of the work,
Mm.
I think is one way. I think another way I determine success is just seeing how people interact with the work, hearing
Mhm.
people's feedback, the way that they interpret the work without me telling them anything is also really affirming of like, okay, Stephanie, so you were able to, they
Gotcha.
arrived there without you spelling it out.
Mhm.
Cool. Like I see all of those things as success. Um, I don't necessarily believe that work is ever quote unquote done, because I do believe that the art making process is iterative and it should be iterative.
That's interesting because some people, and we know being in galleries and spaces, some people think success is when they've sold the piece.
Yeah.
But I love the idea that success, and I think the same way. I'm along those same lines. It's the conversation and the reaction behind them looking at your work. Of course, as an artist, do we not want to sell?
Of course.
Absolutely. But I think it's kind of like you live rent free in that person's head for that piece
Yeah.
because it's going to carry in conversations. They're going to take a picture of it. They're going to share with them. You just don't know how far it can go
Yeah.
just past selling, which I mean we all want, but
And when you make art that's not always, like, sellable,
yeah.
I think that also impacted my perspective on that too.
Mhm,
But because of the way I approach my art practice, and again, I think this goes back to, like, knowing what you wanna say as an artist and, like, that strong critique of yourself.
mhm,
I'm not looking for external validation. When I put it out into the world, I'm looking for that work to do something and have a
uh-huh,
particular impact.
gotcha.
And if it is something that someone can buy, I see that as, wow, you love that thing so much that you want to live with it. You know,
Mhm,
you love that thing so much that you want to continuously engage with it or share it with other people. So I feel like that's a not even like another layer of success. It's just another way in which like the work can live
mhm.
in the world.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. So I have a question for you. I was reading through your artist statement
Mhm.
and I saw this phrase or this sentence I'm gonna just take out. You have something in your artist statement that says ghost trails of the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah.
What does that metaphor mean to you creatively and spiritually? Because I can see the creative part, but I feel like there's some spiritual undertones
Yeah.
connected to this. So what does that mean if you don't mind sharing
Ooh.
for us?
Yeah. Um, Again, another question no one's ever asked me before that I really appreciate. So this will nicely kind of loop back to something that you mentioned earlier before, kind of inquire about the personal and the ancestral.
Mhm,
So the more I learned about my own identity, and that looked like me tracing my lineage back to West Africa, that looked like me literally doing DNA testing, that looked like me really getting into the weeds of like my family stories and things like that. I have really come to take on the idea that I'm here to embody Sankofa, which is the idea of looking back in order to move forward, learning from the past in order to move forward. And the transatlantic slave trade is, I would argue, just a really major force
mhm,
through a lot of our underpinning of how we construct our identities, things that we can understand for ourselves
mhm,
and who we are. So I am looking in the act of helping Black and Brown people find their sense of agency and encourage them to construct their own identities. We're doing that not just on top of systematic racism and colorism and all of these other isms in the world, but we're also doing that in spite of and on top of and in the knowledge of the impact of the transatlantic slave trade. So the ghost trails of it to me is a reference
mhm,
to the things that are there that we can't quite touch, that
mhm.
we can't quite always maybe put a word to, but it's felt, it's understood, it's that head nod, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's that look, it's that hey, I love this food and oh, look at these people enjoy that food in this other space. It's those the ways that we're connected spiritually and through the land. That I think impact the way that we come to understand ourselves and who we are as a people.
Have you been to the Legacy Museum?
Have not. Where's that?
Alabama, go,
Okay.
go.
Okay. Noted.
I'm in California, but I have family in Georgia and in Memphis. So I'm a huge Georgia Bulldog fan. So I went to the game and I drove from my sister's house down there to Montgomery, Alabama. Look it up, the
Okay.
Legacy Museum. It lit, everything you're saying. I was typing. I was like, "Oh, this is the Legacy Museum. Definitely, you should go." I love it because it takes you back to the practice of being present because they take your phone
Mm.
away or they put it in a little pouch thingy. Um,
Oh.
and you have to like walk through the history of first starting off in the transatlantic trade, where you're in this room and
Mm.
all you hear is ocean water, and you look up and it tells you how many souls and lives were lost and families were broken
Wow.
that didn't make it to the land.
Yeah. Ooh, goosebumps.
Like it's like you walk into your house and then you look up and you can hear the water, you can
Oof.
see the text. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And then right when you walk past that, you go to artifacts that they found of like going to the ocean and digging up like chains and pieces of the ships and different things they
Mm.
found just culturally, just excavating,
Yeah.
and it takes you through everything our culture has experienced up till now.
Wow.
Definitely go.
On the list. Yeah,
I cried.
I'm
I
sure.
cried because my mom and dad did their ancestries, right? And so my mom's literally was like South Carolina. And if you go through the Legacy Museum, one of the major hubs for slave trade,
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
My dad's came through a little bit southern because they were in Columbus, Georgia. So he was down like almost Florida-esque,
Okay.
I want to say. And so that was another major hub coming in. And so I was like, damn, like seeing it, you know what I mean? Like doing the ancestry part and then going to a place where it was like, yeah, this was a major hub that just they went up to New York, some went down south, this one pushed them out a little bit. I was just like, wow. So yeah, Legacy Museum, please go see
Noted.
it. Please go. And then get back to me on it. I want
I
to I
will.
want
I
to I
will.
want to talk to you about it after that. I don't want to share too much. So, um looking back at your work so far, what has it taught you about yourself?
Oof. I think every piece that I've made, it teaches me something different about myself. Whether it might be something that, oop, we haven't fully healed from this part yet. Or it
Yeah.
can be very affirming of like, wow, look how far you've come, that you can look at this thing more objectively or, be more critical about this other thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm doing my own identity work. I feel like it's something that's continuous, that doesn't
Yep.
stop. But I do feel like the bulk of it happened in grad school. And now this is me on the other side of it,
Mhm.
deepening that and just expanding that, um, for sure. But I will say that I think the biggest thing that my entire art career, just like art
Yeah.
practice, has taught me is that I can do anything.
Mhm.
I can
That's
literally do anything. And
yep.
everything that I've made is just a testament to that. It's like I have the power to take ideas and bring them to life, period.
So, in what ways do you hope your work helps others or brings a deeper sense of belonging or healing? Because I feel like it is a journey of healing. It is
Yeah.
a journey of finding connection and finding people and finding comfort within a group. So, how do you hope others build a deeper sense of that with viewing your work?
Yeah. I really want people to acknowledge their own journey that they're on, assuming that they're already on one. And if they're not on one, I hope it kickstarts it. I think that the best things in life come from a good ass question.
Mhm.
That's it, and a really strong question that like dumbfounds you. One that
Mm.
you don't have an answer to immediately. And that to me is just like, yep, that's what you got to work on. That's what we need to explore a little bit more, It's that question. Um, yeah, I want to help people along this journey, helping them feel seen, acknowledge where they're at. Maybe that's affirming thoughts that they had about themselves through my own experiences, or if that's sparking new confidence for something new for them to explore. But I think really strong questions just for them to take home and sit with
Mhm.
that'll compound into their next experience. Not everything hits immediately, but I
Yeah.
feel like we're always downloading, right? And then that
Mhm.
future experience might, oh, I saw that one thing that some girl made.
Yeah.
And it made me think this thing, like it's not even about me. It's just like I saw this thing or I had this experience, and it could be years later that it becomes a catalyst point or a turning page for them. And to me, that's the work right there.
Good. So I'm going to break it up before we jump into a very important conversation that I want to have with you. So let's take it and have a little bit of fun. This is
Okay.
like a quick fun round that I like to
Okay.
throw in just to break it up real quick. So, film or photography?
Oh, photography. I'm biased.
Oh, okay. Analog or digital?
Oof. Okay. So even though I shoot digital, analog, there's just, it's
All day.
uh, just, yeah, analog. That's the
Okay.
magic of photography right there.
Yeah. Okay. This might be a little difficult. Soundtrack in your studio, Bob Marley or Nina Simone?
It's definitely Bob Marley.
Okay. One object from your childhood you wish you still had with you today.
I'm going to say the first thing that came to mind, these denim bell-bottom jeans with glitter blue butterflies. I wore those things way longer than I could have and should have. And I have no idea where they are today. Probably somewhere in Jamaica and added to my mother's barrel of donations. But yeah, those are
Okay.
important to me.
If you could install your piece anywhere in the world with no limits, where would it be and what would it say?
Oh,
If you could install it anywhere, there's no they gave you the blank check and say, "Hey, you can put this wherever you want." Where would it be? Let's start there first. So where would you put it?
you know, it'd be really cool to install something in the ocean.
Okay.
Like, I mean, like a pivotal intersection, like where Atlantic meets Pacific or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think that would be really cool. Like you could only access it by boat or plane.
Okay. So what would it be titled? I don't want to say what would it say, but what would it be titled?
I think it would have something to do with the ghost trails of the transatlantic slave trade and really like taking that intangible feeling and making it tangible.
Okay. Now this one you might have to think on. If you could travel and collaborate with one ancestor, known or unknown, what kind of piece would you want to create with them? So if you could travel and collaborate with one ancestor, known or unknown, what kind of piece would you create with them?
I think James Baldwin. And I say James Baldwin because his writing came up for me a lot. He's all over my thesis. And it was he's just one of those people that was not of his time, like he understood things and had a perspective that was like way above everyone of his generation and time. What I would make with him, I think we'd have to make something visual. Like because I feel like I incorporate some of his writings sometimes into my work. I think that would be a really cool ancestor to collaborate with, is taking that writing and creating something that really changes the tide for our population, for people of African descent.
Okay. In my head, I was like, it's going to be a writer. I don't know why in my
Really?
head, I was like, it has to be a writer because your work is so well thought out. I feel like everything starts off written.
Yeah.
It doesn't just I feel like you just don't go into the studio and start picking up pieces and putting stuff together. I feel like it's a very well thought out, written out idea and plan. And I feel like you just pick from there, just like, okay, this is what I could use in that. So that's why I was like, oh, it's going to be a writer. I just don't know who. I just don't know who. Okay. So let's bring it back to this one part I was excited to talk about with you. Your podcast, In Between Artists. It's such a thoughtful concept. What sparked the idea to focus on the in-between space of creative careers?
A few things. My little podcast baby. I was hesitant to do it for a while, even though it was something that was poking at me for a long time. I think I want to, what I'm actively doing, right? Because it's new, it's still happening. I'm embodying where I am as a creative, building and establishing my own sustainable career, and what might it look like in real time. And what does it look like for me to pull that out of other people's stories? I think my podcast is really a manifestation of what I wish was around for me. And it's looking at the things that I was able to piece together and figure out for myself that I realize a lot of people can't do that. So I feel like my podcast it's my gift back to my art community to help people help themselves and create an archive that can be accessed for all time of the internet.
So why is this space so rich for learning and growth? One of the things you mentioned, that in between space is just like 5 or 15 steps ahead. So why is that so rich for learning and growth?
Yeah. So a part of that was inspired actually by where I got my MFA, University of Michigan. So being in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you can imagine it's not like a major city. Um, but University of Michigan really invested a lot of money to bring important artists to that city. So they had this distinguished speaker series. And it was cool. I met a lot of amazing, from Zanelli Maholi to, I mean, you name it, like all these huge names. However, you leave those presentations, excited, maybe fangirling. But like, I'm not leaving with any actionable items that I could do tomorrow or any actionable things that I could even do a year from now.
Yeah.
And to me, that was a huge gap. So you've got these students, you've got these emerging artists, and inspiration of that size and grandeur will only get you so far, but they're not action steps that you can take. So you're still leaving it up to the individual to figure out what things should I literally do to move the needle in my career to get to this
Gotcha.
cool imaginary space that I'm interested in. I know it's possible because I met so and so and I heard their story, but how do I do more than that?
Yeah.
So that 5 to 10, 10 to 15 steps ahead, the idea of that is you are close enough to be able to relate to where that person is. And to me, that is like the really important, that's the tender spot of where a mentor and mentee relationship, I think, really excels because you're not so big
Right.
or so distracted that you can't relate to, like, yeah, I lived with my mom for a while, or yeah, I was co-living with some friends, or yeah, I lived in my car for a bit. I remember
I
that, and this
see.
is how I
Yeah.
ate. This is how I paid for gas, like they're not there with you, but like that wasn't that long ago that they have respect and appreciation for where you're at, and they can let you know that it's okay. Hey, I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to get here, but it's okay to get here by working at that coffee shop for a bit.
Gotcha.
Or,
Yeah.
like, how else can you utilize your creative brain? Maybe if you start here, it can get you there. Like, that's those actionable things. And then, of course, the money part, right?
Yep.
Because we're seeing these cool aspirational things. But again, like, y'all making this work with teams. You got fancy
Yeah.
studios in New York. You've got,
Yep.
like,
10,000
marketing.
square foot warehouses with AC and perfect lighting.
Right, like, how do you it's not even how do you compete, but how do you relate
Yep.
to someone where, like, I'm just pulling at the strings to outsource? Like, if I have a little bit of money extra to outsource my social media, much less
Yes.
press and marketing and production, like, I'm all of those things, and all artists start there,
Yep.
right? Before we even many people don't even get to the point of being able to outsource their work in that kind
Right.
of way, but, like, that's what I mean. Like, being an artist is hard. It is
Yeah.
hard work. It takes entrepreneurship to a whole nother level.
100%.
And yeah, honing in on that in between space was really to focus on that and have conversations with artists who I feel like are on their way. And the conversations that I'm having are with artists who are probably at step like 15, so that the people who are listening can be like, okay, cool, you're approachable. Let me DM you real quick. Let me shoot
Right.
you an email,
Right.
opposed to, like, I can't just call up Sanford Biggers. Like, I'd love to, I
Yeah.
mean? Like, let's chat. But like, it'll also be like, who are you?
Let's see if he's got time on his schedule. Yeah, those type
Right,
of
right,
things.
right.
Even
Shots
for
a
me,
little you.
I've encountered that even with my own podcast. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. But I think there's some themes you touched on, and I was just curious about because you said one of them, which was money.
Yeah.
So money, sustainability, I mean, the business of being a creative. Like, so through your conversations and through some of your, because I know you're a research girly, through
I
some of
am.
your research, um, what have your guests or your own experiences taught you about managing finances as a creative?
A lot. I've uncovered lots of things that I hope will help lots of people. One of my favorite examples is it's a lot of people's dreams, to do the art thing in New York, leave from school, go straight to New York. But that's not financially realistic for a lot of people. And not everybody's into sleeping in their car, or,
Those New
being
York
like
winters are
cramped
not
up
nice.
in an apartment.
Oh, yeah.
But I had a conversation with someone who they forego after school activities, socializing, all of that to work all of these several different jobs
Oh, yeah.
just to save up money so that when they graduated, they would have a lump sum of cash to take themselves to New York. And that I thought was really admirable. That I was just like, now that's real life. That right there, that is real life to get you where you know you want to go. Um, I think these conversations that I'm having with artists, specifically around money, has taught me personally that it's okay. Like it's time for us to normalize working multiple jobs as a creative. It's time for us to stop penalizing or punishing artists for having a day job and instead accepting that as just a norm. I'm also finding as of late that a lot of established artists do have day jobs and they just don't talk about them. But even the fact that you're not talking about them continues this image that is detrimental, right, to artists coming up who feel like, oh, I just want to be a full time artist. And you have no idea that, like, that artist you're looking up to, like, 75% of their income is coming from their teaching job, you know,
Right.
or maybe they have a partner who makes a certain amount of money that affords them to not have to have a day job for themselves. Like, there's no shade either way. I just want more transparency around the entire topic so that we can have more realistic expectations and open it up because it not just impacts artists, but it also impacts the other people in our ecosystem. Gallerists who look down upon, like, oh, you have a day job. Like, and
Yeah.
I want a house too. Like I want to save, like I got a kid, like
Right.
it's okay. If
Yeah.
anything, actually in the last episode I just did, the artist said specifically that she feels she's more dedicated in her art practice than other people because she also has a day job. She
Mhm.
doesn't have the luxury of just looking at this one thing. She has to be intentional about working in her craft
Yep.
and making work on top of the other responsibilities that she has. I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh man, that is needed because a lot of people think this is easy. It's like, do you not know how much planning, scheduling, rescheduling, life happening,
I
like
want to
even
know what the stat is, but the
yeah,
percentage of people with art degrees who actually pursue a career in the arts, I think is really sad and low. I just don't know what that number is, but I
there
know it's not high.
oh my goodness. Dr. Cheryl Miller and I talked about this and she said the number of designers or creatives or artists in general, they stop around 40 because it's not paying dividends, it's taking up more time.
It's hard.
So it is.
Like that,
You
it's a
need a full-time
business.
job
It's a
to
business
create.
and not everybody is interested in being a business owner. And that's
Right.
also okay, right? So
Mhm.
again, no shade to like however it is you want to move as a creative. It's just like
Yes.
how they say there are leaders and there are followers. Like we need both in the world, Some people just want to get an assignment, do the creative thing and move on, and other
Mhm.
people want to be the visionary and build the thing from the ground up. Like there's room for all of those things.
Mhm.
But again, I just think that we still need more transparency about all the ways that a creative career can look and
Mhm.
feel, so that people feel more acceptance to step
Mhm.
into whatever it is that looks and feels good for them, opposed to thinking that like being an artist can only look one particular way.
Yep. So what are some myths around overnight success that you're working on, like challenging through your show?
Yeah, I think that's a part of the reason why money is such a big topic, right? Because it's like, how are you affording that thing? Yeah, there is no overnight success. I think that we actually have more examples of the problem with even like perceived overnight successes. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is like, say an artist gets like a really big break, or a celebrity finds you. Celebrity finds you, now you blow up. Oftentimes, that can actually pigeonhole an artist, and that can become a problem for them to like break away from like, cool, I became popular on this thing, but I really want to go and do other things. I've had a mentor tell me before where she was just like, Stephanie, you want the slow and steady. You want the slow and steady. Which I used to find really frustrating when she told me that. I'm just like, oh, but I just want to like blow up tomorrow. But, now that I'm like 12 plus years in, I get it. I get it because there is a level of respect
Mhm.
for the time and effort that's been put into it.
Mhm.
I still feel like I've got all there's so much more for me to do. There's so much more that I
Yeah.
want to do and achieve, but I'm also learning to give myself my flowers for what I have done
Yeah.
in the time because it's a lot, and it's a
Yes.
lot to be proud of. And at any point in time, that blow up kind of situation could happen, but it looks
Mhm.
different for me
Yeah.
now because I've been doing the work. I
Mhm.
didn't wait for this one moment. And I think that's the biggest lesson to learn amongst the
Yeah.
concept of an overnight success is that you need to do the work.
Mhm. 100%.
Period. You
Yep.
just need to do the work and spend the time doing it, even if it's just one thing every single day. How are you moving the needle in your art practice? Set those parameters for yourself. I know for
Yeah.
myself, when I made the conscious decision of, stepping into the workforce when I left graduate school and wanting to move in that way, I was like, I want healthcare.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to wonder about like
100%.
what's paying for my rent. But I also put parameters on myself in my career. And I said, I have to exhibit 3 times a year and I have to do an art residency. At the time, it was like every other year, but now I have a rule that I need to do one annually. So those are just some parameters that I put on myself and like a certain
Yeah.
number of photo shoots that I want to do to make sure that I don't become that stereotype of having the degree and not doing it. Like at the end of the day job is a means to an end, but my art
Mhm.
career is forever. My art
Mhm.
career is the goal. Like that's what I promised little Stephanie, and that's what we're actively executing today. So all of those parameters just continue to grow and grow and grow to ensure that I am keeping my promise to myself and prioritizing my practice until it gets to the point where it's the number one thing.
Yes. I think every artist works towards that, is
Yeah.
getting it, just scheduling that time. That's the one thing a lot of people and a lot of creatives forget is like we can be consumed by so much, but if you're intentional, like your guest said, and schedule out that time and give
Yeah.
yourself little, like some people they give themselves like these huge goals, and it's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Give yourself like two or three realistic, obtainable goals so that you can feel like every year you have accomplished something. It's not like you sat there and looked at it like,
And those
I'm
feel
just,
good hormones are what keep you going.
yes,
So when you
yes,
make that list that's too big, and I'm guilty of it, like you don't want to see
yeah,
my to-do list. It's definitely 3 pages long. Like it's horrible.
yeah,
However, you look for those things that are going to say, like, yeah, I did it. You
yep,
check that off, you cross it off. Like all of those things are what keep you going, and you need
yeah,
whatever possible to just motivate you to keep you going.
yes. So, Stephanie, we are rolling. I just have a few more questions.
Yeah.
This has just been so good and so like just gems, just giving us all these wonderful things to think about. So, what would you say to a dormant artist, someone who's been stuck or even scared to return back to their practice? Because we just spoke about how some, like, what are the numbers?
Yeah.
So, what would you say to that artist who is stuck in that space?
So the first thing I would ask, because I think this question is not asked enough, is do you want your primary revenue source to be from your art? I would ask them that question first, because it doesn't have to be. And I think that's along the same lines of the pressures that are put on artists, this expectation of, just knowing how to do business, knowing how to be an entrepreneur. Like, not everybody wants to mess with all that. Not everybody wants to do those things. Some people just want an assignment. Some people just want to make for themselves.
Right.
And that is also okay. So that would be my first question to them. And depending on how they answer would essentially determine like the motivating factors of what I might share with them next.
Gotcha.
Because if the answer is yes, then maybe we need to go back to your why you're doing it and who you're doing it for. I made mention before that, like, this is a promise I made to myself. I've always wanted to be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's just up to adult Stephanie to like bring what childhood Stephanie always wanted. But that's something that was always a part of me. So to me, I feel like I'm honoring my highest self and my true self by pursuing my art career by whatever means necessary. And for me, that's what this looks like in terms of going the entrepreneurial route. Like, I have my own business. Like, that's the vibe and direction that's the path that I'm actively on. But for other people, it doesn't have to look that way. So if you want to be doing nothing at all except for your art, then let's make that happen. But you can't do that if you don't try. You have to try, because you can come up with the excuses. Nobody wants it. It's not going to work. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da.
Yep.
Show me the receipts, because there are people making a living off of foot fetishes. You can do it. Like, literally,
No,
there
she
is
did.
something for everybody. Okay?
No,
There's
she did just say
for everybody.
somebody getting rich off of feet pics right now.
I'm saying, I mean, manicured nails, you name it. Furries, come on.
That's yeah. Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
it's just like I mean, we could go down the list and it's hilarious, but it's also facts.
It's true.
Like, let the humor in that also inspire the fact that like we are our own worst critics and we are the ones holding ourselves back. So you're not dormant because you're a part of that statistics. You're dormant because you're choosing to. And it's okay to choose to be dormant, but know that you're making that choice, opposed to putting it on others or the world or the industry and saying that like, oh, no, no, no. Like, but we gotta be honest with ourselves and see what is it that we can be doing.
That's so funny you said that. It took me a minute and I was like, she said it, but it's true. I'm not even gonna fight you on it. It is true. Every day I'm like, man, them student loans ain't gonna pay themselves. So let's talk about, for a young artist or young creative starting out, what would be the first steps you would recommend towards them building a sustainable creative career?
So I think it depends on how young we're talking, right? So like,
let's say fresh out of undergrad.
Okay, great. Love it. So fresh out of undergrad, hopefully you got a degree in something that allows you to hone a skill. That's a little bit of shade to interdisciplinary undergraduate programs, because I think it's hard to like build a career when you don't like really own a particular like medium or practice. But anyway, set that shoebox aside. I think fresh out of undergrad, get some experience. That's the number one thing, because as much as you want to figure out what you want to do, it's also really great to know what you don't want to do. And you just won't know that until you try it and you do it. I'm really glad that I had mentors and professors who encouraged me not to go straight to graduate school after undergrad, because I don't think I would have been successful. I think if I went straight from undergrad to graduate school, I would have been just getting a degree to get a degree. I wouldn't have been focused. I wouldn't have had my why. But that experience, that work experience in between, is what made me want to revisit it. So I would say that like, be called to get an MFA, but if you're straight out of undergrad, like, actually work in your practice. Like, do you like your practice still? Try working in it for a while and see if you do. And which ways do you like it? As a photographer, like, there's so much, like, you don't have to be behind the camera. Maybe you're on the administrative side of something photo based. Maybe you're a retoucher. Maybe you're an editor. Maybe you're on the post side of things. Like, there's all these different avenues, but you won't know what works for you until you just try. So I think that would be like my number one bit of advice, because one, that's going to put some money in your pocket. Please
Yep.
save. Please don't let your rent be 60% of what you make.
Mhm.
Um, Humble yourself coming straight out of undergrad.
Yep.
Keep your expenses super low until you figure out what works for you. Just
Yeah.
try not to take on too much unnecessary financial risk
Right.
when you really need to be in a stage of applying all the work that you just did in college into the real world and see where that drives you first, because that is the foundation of your sustainability. Like if I knew then what I know now about credit cards, I'd have so much more money saved. Like,
So much.
it's horrible, but like I didn't have anyone to like show me or
Mhm.
help me in that capacity, so I know now. But like, yeah.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I always say go live life before you want to come back and do this. Go live, enjoy it, figure out what you like, don't like, figure out what works for you, because it's like when you're fresh out of college, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Your frontal
You
lobe is
literally
probably
just need
still
some
developing.
experiences to help
Yeah.
you drive. And I also encourage people, like, for a young person who's still in college right now, do as many internships as you can,
Yes. Yes.
because that also saves time. So opposed to bouncing between job to job, or waiting on someone to say yes to you, you're actually more likely to be picked up as a college student.
Yeah.
So that's the real nuggets that I feel like not enough college students are hearing, is that don't wait until you've graduated to get into the workforce. Do
Do it
as many
early.
internships in as many different industries as you can, so you can get that behind the scenes look. So you don't even waste time when you graduate.
Mhm.
You know what you are not interested in doing. That's years. I just saved you years.
Yes. So my final question is, how do you build an authentic community and network without falling into that transactional trap? That's
Like
big for a lot of,
transactional with your career or like with your
yeah,
art.
yeah. I feel a lot of designers and creators and fine artists, we fall into that because it's just, we need to eat.
Yeah.
We need to survive. So, how do you build an authentic community and network without falling into that?
I think it requires some careful balancing. I think I'll put it this way. You have to create some parameters for yourself, because again, everyone's our career is going to look a little different, right?
Yes.
Some people are going to go the vendor market kind of route. Some people are going to want to go the gallery route. Some people are going to want to go the online kind of marketplace,
Mhm.
picking up gig work, that kind of route. Um, for me, I think that I have found success in rooting all of my actions in what brings me joy. That to me is
Yes.
what turned the tides from me just trying to build a career to me really being intentional about creating a sustainable,
Mhm.
authentic career. I made a pivot right before the pandemic, actually, where I stopped doing event photography. As a photographer, easy way to pick up some money, right? Pick up an event, portrait session, birthday, whatever, very easy way. But I had to get real about how that was taking away my time and energy from other things that
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in galleries. I really wanted to be at fairs. I really wanted to be in collections, but I'm busy doing this event that was maybe booked in advance. So I'm missing out on opportunities and stuff. So that was a conscious decision that I had to make. And I think where I pivoted was that it was, yes, I'm doing things that bring me joy, but I was only seeing yes now moving forward to things that were in alignment of where I was trying to go. So I feel like that was the key of just knowing, where do you want to go? Because as long as you don't know where you're going, then it's very easy to get caught up in transactional things. It's very easy to get caught up in just whatever comes your way.
Mhm.
And again, the idea of embodying Sankofa, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. All of those things are in relationship to each other. So
Mhm.
figuring out um, what those pieces look like and how to bring them together and be intentional about what you're doing. You got to know your own why. If you
Yeah.
don't know your own why, you're going to continuously be in a space where you let other people define you and your art practice, opposed to you defining it for yourself. No one can tell you. I mean, people can tell you, but like, you don't want to be stuck in a space where other people are validating you and your art, it being good, worthy, whatever. Like, you got to own that. You got to
Yeah.
believe in that. And I've just been on the journey of gaining the audacity to do what I want to do on my own terms.
Wow. We're just going to end it right there. That was fire. That was fire. Stephanie, I just want to say thank you for bringing your full self to this conversation. Your honesty, creativity, and your insights are a true gift. So where can the people find you?
Lots of places. You can follow my art at Created Brown on Instagram. My website is stephaniebphotos.com. All of my links are there as well. You can listen to my podcast, In Between Artists, wherever it is that you like to listen to podcasts. It's also available on YouTube since it is a video podcast. Yeah, those are all the places. And I'm happy to collaborate and connect with anyone at any point in time. I'm really wide open. It's really an honor and a privilege to be able to support other people in their careers. And I welcome opportunities to collaborate or speak and just share.
Yes. Well, you guys, thank you so much for watching the podcast today. My name is Justin Robinson. I have the thinker, the writer, the creator, the insightful, the woman of many gifts, Stephanie Brown. And this is the Art School Graduate Podcast. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.